Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined, not always, but when it's fun when we do, by Erickson and Debro. Fellas, we have not done a show together, I don't think, since August. We were not on an in-season show together. Last year, we shook up the schedule a little bit, and then we just haven't had one where it's the three of us on an off-season show. I love doing shows with the two of you. It's been a minute, though, Debro.
I mean, it's not Erickson and I's fault that you replace us with Fitz and Bogman. So, you know, I would say I'm sorry about this, but I didn't do this, Worm.
I have done a lot of shows with Fitz, a lot with Jake Seeley, who's obviously been doing a lot of shows with Fantasy Pros this spring, and I've done some with Erickson, and I maybe have done one or two with you, Debro. But yeah, you know, you've been busy with the draft stuff, and I've been doing the dynasty stuff and baseball. Erickson is just doing all things at all times, so we haven't crossed paths with the three of us. But I'm very excited for this episode here, Erickson.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun time, and I think part of the reason was me and Debro didn't have a show last year together in season. So I know Worm, we did a bunch of shows together, but it was the lack of Erickson Debro that hopefully we're going to get fixed this upcoming season. So, I mean, I miss Debro. I miss that baldiness. Come on, man.
We'll get some Derrickson going on in the 2025 season. We are still a few months away from the 2025 season. I do want to remind everybody quickly that all of our 2025 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. Every week we get a little bit closer to the 2025 season, so those rankings will get kind of more and more comprehensive as we get closer. I do want to also let everybody know that if you want a chance to win a signed Nico Collins Texans jersey for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on any video, and that is it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to claim your prize. Guys, we are talking top 32 quarterback rankings in this episode. Before we do that, we have to hit on some breaking news. It's pretty minor. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but my Baltimore Ravens have extended Derrick Henry. It is the largest extension for any running back over the age of 30 in NFL history. I believe it is 2 years, $30 million with $25 million of that guaranteed. I mean, Derrick Henry could not have been a more perfect fit in this offense last year. We were all over it last summer. I mean, I remember in the early stages of last draft season, like very early on, you could get Henry in like the mid to late third round. He did move up ultimately over the course of the summer. You and I thought that was crazy from day one. We said there's no world where a healthy Derrick Henry scores fewer than 12 touchdowns this season, and that ended up looking low. He was just a remarkable fit. It didn't look like he was slowing down, even at the age of 30, and with all the volume this guy has handled over the years. What are your expectations for him this year? I mean, the discount isn't there anymore now that we've seen it in Baltimore. He's going as kind of one of those like top 5 or 6 running backs in early drafts and early rankings. Are you still going to be in on Henry this year?
Oh, dude, I'm in on it. I have learned, I'm old enough now to know, and I have learned that you don't bet against Derrick Henry. It doesn't work out well. It's not good for anybody. I mean, the king is the king, man. He's an outlier. He will remain an outlier, and he's going to be an RB1 until he decides to hang up the cleats. And, oh, what a world, Worm. Can you remember those days when you could bet the over on 10.5 rushing touchdowns for Derrick Henry?
At plus money.
It was good times to be alive, baby.
Man. And that's the thing, too, is like even let's say there's a world where his efficiency does take a step back this year. Like, I'm not saying I expect that, but even in a world where like father time does come, that dude is still scoring double-digit touchdowns in this offense. The Ravens do not want to run Lamar close to the goal line. They're going to run Derrick Henry there instead of like Justice Hill or Rasheen Ali. Like, that guy is scoring 12 more touchdowns this year if he stays healthy. Erickson, is this one of those players where you'd rather just be in on him and also be in on the year where it falls apart and say, listen, I'll take that risk and just kind of ride this ship to the end of the world? Or are you starting to get, he is another year older and all that stuff?
No, I think it's just better to take him off and ride into the sunset with Derrick Henry, because I think just based on, again, how effective he was last year in this offense, how he's built like no other running back we've really seen in recent memory, the thing that how I could see him failing is if the infrastructure in the Ravens offense crumbles. And how does that happen? With injuries. Last year, the Ravens had the healthiest offense in the NFL. So if they're not as lucky, more injuries on the offensive line, if Lamar gets banged up, then maybe you see that's the dip. But projecting that when you're trying to draft these players, no one's going to be like, well, you were right about Derrick Henry because you thought that everyone was going to get hurt and that's why he was a bust. Like, that's not really the case. So I think it's just better. He's someone that, look, He's a friggin' tank. So long live the king.
I don't even really think offensive line injuries can slow him down. We saw him play behind terrible offensive lines in Tennessee. I think a Lamar injury is the only thing that prevents Derrick Henry from having a stud season, because then you're limiting the scoring opportunities, and also like Lamar makes the offensive line a lot. Even a bad offensive line looks better with Lamar back there. So a Lamar injury is the one scenario where you start to feel a little bad about maybe the price you pay on Henry. Other than that, like, I mean, this is awesome. It's just, we said last summer, it's just going to look really cool to see Lamar and Henry in the same backfield. And guess what? It did. So I'm excited to see a couple more years of that. That was the big breaking news, really. Obviously, we are recording this actually a day before this is getting released, so we do not have any information on the schedule release yet. Just very quickly before we dive into the rest of the show, do you guys care about the schedule release? Is this like a big deal for you? Because for some people, it is. I don't. I think it is fun to kind of sit through and go win, loss for your favorite team, and like see how many primetime games you get. I do get the hype that it generates. I am not here for this, like, at the draft, we're going to announce that this is coming, and the day we're releasing the schedule, and this like slow drip during the week of here's one of the primetime games we'll announce on Monday, and here's the Amazon Prime slate we'll announce on Tuesday. Just tell me the schedule. I'll have some fun with it for a day, and then I'm not thinking about it anymore, D-Bro.
Look, I don't want to rain on the fan base parade here. I know, because everybody, you know, especially fans, are going to go through all the schedules and, again, do all the things that you just outlined, Worm. So I'm going to be the wet blanket here. I don't care, man. Like, this is one of the things where it's like the NFL just – I get, like – and I'm fine with a lot of the different layers of pageantry and the pomp and, like, kicking it up to 11 and let's just make everything so grandiose. But, like, this is one of the things where it's like, dude, come on. Like, we've got big talking heads out there being like, per sources, the Eagles are playing so-and-so week 5. I don't care, man. Like, I just release it. Let us know the bye week so we can capitalize that, or, you know the entries we've already burned in best ball leagues because of bye weeks. And past that, I don't care. Let's just move on. Move on.
Erickson, is this something you care about? I mean, even from the perspective of, like, you do a lot of best ball drafts and kind of planning out what the playoffs might look like once you start to see the schedule and trying to project ahead, or is it not really that relevant to you?
Yeah, you guys are both wrong. I think it's a lot of fun to look at the NFL schedule. So as someone that, again, I'm not biased in any way because I am the one that's writing the article for the website about the NFL schedule release.
No bias.
I think that there's a lot of cool ways. And I think that in recent years we've seen a lot of analysis about the schedule when it comes to rest advantage, when it comes to teams playing on the road really early in the season. There are ways where you can identify where, hey, this team, even, again, we don't necessarily know the opponents and how good defense and offense will necessarily be, but, I mean, if a team has to play 4 of their first 5 games on the road, like, that's not ideal for whatever team that is. And you can make some strategic decisions based on how this projects, especially when it comes to, you got to draft DST in your fantasy draft. The easiest way to draft the number 1 is, who do they play week 1? Who did play week 2? We were pounding the table last year for Seattle because they played the Broncos. They played the Patriots. Like, it was just like a really easy schedule of matchups, and that was the defense that I drafted in every single draft. And they were really good to start the year because we looked at the opening season schedule. So, again, projecting it to the end with, like, the fantasy playoffs is obviously much harder because the teams change so much. But we do have full rosters for the most part, with a couple moves here and there. So I think that is a lot of fun. And there are some certain, again, we're looking for every edge, every micro edge we can find, and I'm here for it. So,
spoken like a true DJ, Erickson. I love you for it.
I respect people who care, but
I can just do without the
can't.
pageantry, dude. That's what gets me. Like, we're just gonna milk this for every little morsel. Like,
it would if we didn't know the opponents, this would be like the coolest announcement. But we know the opponents. This is just the order and the times are being played. Like, again, the slow drip is what kills me. You wanna say, like, hey, we're announcing it on Wednesday. We'll release it on Wednesday. I'll have some fun with that Wednesday night. It's a big, as a social media manager myself, it's a big night for social media teams for all the franchises. So that's kind of cool to watch and see, like, what the Chargers do or the Titans do. But last question on the schedule. We know the Saints aren't getting any primetime games. We know the Ravens are probably going to get close to the max. The Patriots, your team, Erickson, how many primetime games do you think you're going to get in Drake May's second season?
That's interesting. I think that they're going to get a Thursday night probably against the Jets, which is always horrible. I mean, I don't even know Thursday really, it's like fake prime time. But I think they'll probably get probably 2 games. I think they probably get 1 Monday night game and 1 Sunday night game. Probably a divisional match maybe against Buffalo. I know that the Patriots played pretty well last year in Buffalo. So Drake May kind of, is he the next Josh Allen, et cetera. So I think that could be kind of interesting. And I will say, at least talking about the schedule, one of the games actually leaked before we came on here was the Steelers are playing the Jets in week 1. And do we know at this? Again, I don't know at this time if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers playing in that game. We'll see. But I don't love that for my Justin Fields shares, because if there's any team that knows against the Steelers defense in week 1.
Revenge narrative, baby.
Dude, it's called we know all Justin Fields tendencies narrative. That
so does everybody that's ever watched his film too.
That is a matchup I do not like for Fields in week 1, but he'll bounce back.
I know this is like a super long intro before we get into the meat of this episode, but like talking to you guys and thinking about this stuff, I'm jazzed up for the season, man. Like you get through April, it's so draft heavy, and I love that. It's so rookie heavy. I love Dynasty. I might even prefer Dynasty to redraft at this point in my fantasy life, but I'm excited for the season. I want to talk weekly rankings. I want to do my redrafts. Like I'm getting jazzed talking to you guys. It's still a few months away. Let's dive into our top 32 quarterback rankings here. We're not going to like deep dive on every player here, of course, but we want to kind of go through just these are the current consensus rankings. Again, you can find that fantasypros.com/rankings. I'll just kind of give you guys a handful of names at a time. It's not necessarily directly lining up with what the tiers are on the site. You can check that out if you want to see how the early rankings have it tiered. This is just kind of groupings in about a half dozen or so per. And I want to see who you guys think are too high, too low, guys that maybe belong in a higher tier or a lower tier, guys that you are, thinking might regress this year, might take a big step forward. Just kind of general thoughts on these early rankings. We'll start at the very top. Of course, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels are the top 3. They're going to be the top 3 in pretty much every draft. I would expect they're the top 3 in dynasty rankings as well. Allen obviously has been a top 2 fantasy quarterback, pretty much every year since he got good. Lamar's ceiling as high as anybody in terms of fantasy in the sport. And Jaden Daniels coming off just a remarkable rookie season. Just quickly of those 3, Debro, obviously you've been a Jaden Daniels guy. Do you really care what the order is of those 3, or is it just those 3 and get one and be happy?
Yep. It's, the top of the board right now, my rankings are pretty much chalk with how ECR is. I didn't lay it out that way, but that's just how it folds in, man. The top 3, if one of them falls for whatever reason, like a round in your draft or a few spots past ADP, grab them. But out of those top 3 guys, that's really the only game I'm playing, because I'm not going to be the first guy in the room to draft quarterbacks. And, in all honesty, I hate the fact that Jaden Daniels is going this high now, because I'm probably not going to get a ton of exposure, because I usually do wait on guys in a lot of different drafts unless it happens to be like a smaller league.
I feel like Erickson, for me, I'm not going to be getting a lot of early tight ends this year, because I don't want to do both an early tight end and an early quarterback, and I want to get one of these early quarterbacks. So because I want to get one of them, I think I'm going to be shying away from those early tight ends. But the trade-off for that will be getting one of these elite quarterbacks. I am tired of years where I go, quarterback's so deep, you can get somebody late, and then I don't have a difference maker. I want one of these difference makers this year.
But didn't you draft Jaden Daniels with all of us last year? He was a difference maker as a late round quarterback. I'm just late round quarterback hits every year, dude.
That's not going to happen every year. Like, do you think Cam Ward's going to be that this year?
No, but Drake May, he's a late round quarterback. Like, there's so many late round quarterbacks, man. Like, it's, again, like, I get that where they're ranked inside the top 3, but I don't draft these guys. Like, I just don't. Like, I go with the value in the late round. I think in a best ball context, it's a little bit different, because these guys can offer 30-point weeks that you can't always replace with late round quarterbacks. So I think that's a different discussion. But in terms of redraft, man, like, I want the positional players here. I want to load up on top end wide receivers. And I feel, this year, every year is different. But I think as we get into, I think there are a ton of late round quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, you can get basically for free.
So here's what I would say to that. I agree with you if you're talking about those guys versus like some of the next names coming up. Burrow, Mahomes, Mayfield, like the guys in that like 5 to 8 range. Yes, at that point maybe I consider just waiting, because like Drake Mays, we'll get to him later. I couldn't be more all in on him at cost right now. Those top 3 though feel different to me, at least, and they're like, I want that surefire game changer. I'd rather get that than like a 3rd round running back. Like, so often those guys are like in the RB dead zone. Like, I just want the week in and week out stud.
Before we move on, Worm, one of the things that you highlighted real quick there that I think is really paramount and why I think people have a decision point to make in their drafts. The part where you brought up not wanting to draft an early tight end and an early quarterback, you're going to have to pick or choose with that, or you're going to have to be okay with sacrificing value and maybe some upside, depending on how your build is, with a running back or wide receiver. Like, if you go early for both of those positions, you got to probably make a concession somewhere. So I agree with it. I thought that was a really, really good point.
Wow, a rare compliment from D-Bro. We really are off to
I thought it was sharp, dude. I'm going to highlight it.
The other kind of guys in this top 6 range after those first 3, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. Baker Mayfield, obviously somebody who has really turned his career around from where he was in terms of fantasy circles just a couple of years ago. The receiving core gets even better for him with them drafting Ibuka in the top 20, year 2 for McMillan. Chris Godwin, seemingly coming back well from another brutal injury, and Mike Evans just being a total metronome who never fails to be a model of consistency. Just any thoughts on that Hurts, Burrow, Mayfield kind of grouping, Erickson?
Mayfield, I get why he's ranked here, but I think that he's probably going to end up being overvalued if he's the QB6.
Ooh,
and that's just because...
Really?
Yeah, because you're just looking at what do we want to do every year is you fade the guy that has the highest passing touchdown rate because it inevitably regresses the following season. This happens all the time, especially with guys that are more focused on getting their points through the air. Yes, Baker Mayfield did have some decent rushing last year, 400 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, but that's not really his game. Like, that's not necessarily something you rely on every single year. Oh, he's going to put up a ton of rushing. It's touchdowns with him. He had the second highest passing touchdown rate in the NFL last year. That's something that usually regresses. That's just literally what happens every single year. So I get why he's ranked up here, but there are other guys, again, someone that's not even inside the top 12. I mean, Brock Purdy can have a really high touchdown rate too. He's got a lot of good weapons in the San Francisco 49ers, and he doesn't cost nearly as much as Baker Mayfield. So it's not that I'm hating on the rank, but the guy every year that gets pushed up the rankings because they had a really high touchdown rate one year, they just usually don't end up being good draft values the next season because they're overvalued because the touchdowns are just not sustainable year over year. So that's one point with Mayfield. And the other one is with Hurts. Just, I think they're going to ban the tush push. And again, I haven't really thought too much about how I will move him in terms of rankings. I don't think it eliminates him totally, but I think it's something that when it happens, because I do expect it to get banned, it's something that fantasy managers have to consider, that this cheat code play where him scoring 1 million rushing touchdowns may not be in his range of outcomes in 2025. So those are only like 2 guys I wanted to bring up.
D-Bro, yeah, you seem to not being in agreement with, or at least you seem surprised by Erickson saying what he said about Baker.
I don't disagree with the regression of the passing touchdowns. What I'll say is where we're kind of ranking Baker, though, kind of bakes, like he was QB4 in fantasy points per game. And Mike Evans missing time, Chris Godwin missing time. Now they have more depth with Ibuka and plans in place. And then we saw Cade Otton step up. Like, I think we're kind of baking some of that regression in, maybe not to the extent that that you feel, Erickson, but I do think it's baked in some because he even outperformed that ranking last year. Now, again, like if he drops from 41 passing touchdowns to like in the mid-30s, okay, it's going to make a difference. I'm still in on him going at QB6. And just to tack on some Hurts analysis here too, it's like I'm not worried about the rushing. Like I don't care if they ban the tush push. He's had 14, 15 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years. The 2 previous years before that, 13 and 10 rushing touchdowns. Whether they're tush pushing or they're just going to use a good old-fashioned quarterback sneak behind a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, I don't freaking care. He's still going to score a bunch of rushing touchdowns. It's not going to move me off of Hurts.
Yeah, that is always the funny thing about the tush-push conversation is I'm like, this dude squats 600 pounds and is going behind the best offensive line.
He was doing it before.
I think he'll still score on some QB sneaks.
Yeah, same.
It is officially the best time of year for Hoops fans. Playoff drama, buzzer beaters, all the chaos we live for. And if you're done just watching and ready to actually win some cash, you got to check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at 500 times as a bag in your pocket. It's super simple. Select your picks, track your score, and go for those big-time prizes. No gimmicks, just straight-up fun. Pick 6 is live in most states like Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and plenty more. So, yeah, don't settle for weak payouts. Make your picks with Pick 6 and let your basketball brain pay off. New to DraftKings Pick 6, new customers toss in $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FANTASYPROS. That's code FANTASYPROS to pay $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Guys, this 7 to 12 range is interesting for quarterbacks. It goes Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields. I feel like a handful of those guys I would rather wait and take over somebody like Mayfield if you're kind of baking some of their aggression. Like Bo Nix ran so well. He's now in year 2. Sean Payton offense. I'm really excited about Bo Nix in fantasy this year. I know Mahomes has not been a fantasy stud for a while at this point, but he's still Patrick Mahomes, and I wouldn't bet against him having a great passing touchdown type of season, especially like if Rashee Rice is back healthy, year 2 for Xavier Worthy. I think that could be a really interesting person to wait on. Kyler Murray, again, another year removed from his injury. Maybe he runs a bit more. We get some of that cheat code stuff from him. I'm really excited about Justin Herbert with the addition of Trey Harris, who obviously Devo really likes. And then Justin Fields, if he's guaranteed, I mean, like, he is the starting quarterback here. He is going to run a lot. QB12 is going to be too low if he's the starting quarterback all season, strictly on the basis of the legs. So really outside of Goff, I think you could make a case for any of these guys as somebody worth waiting on rather than taking one of those like Baker Mayfield type guys who's currently ranked ahead of him. Debro, what do you think about waiting here?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with waiting. And I'm in on a lot of different guys in this tier. I mean, Justin Fields is a QB1. As long as we can assume he starts all the games and stuff like that, he will be a QB1. So he needs to be ranked inside of the top 12. I think Herbert's the biggest one where it's like, okay, what do the Chargers do? I think they pass more than they did, or than a lot of people do, considering I know they added Amarion Hampton and what that backfield looks like in the rushing rate. This is also a team down the back half of last season was top 12 in pass rate over expectation and neutral passing rate. So now with more weapons there, I think that Herbert could pay off really nicely this year. The two guys that I really want to highlight that I am much lower on, one, Kyler Murray. I get all the rushing. I understand he's probably going to be a top 12 guy. If you had Kyler Murray last year, it's not with that I necessarily disagree that he should be ranked as a top 12 quarterback. I have him outside of that because I think other guys having down years and maybe bounce back seasons maybe push Kyler down the board, where we saw some guys fail last year, get hurt, things like that. Kyler's passing metrics are just god-awful. He's been god-awful as a passer for multiple seasons now, whether depending on however you want to look at it. And if anybody rostered Kyler last year, like, sure, he finished as a top 12 quarterback on the season long. If you had him as your starter, the ebbs and flows, the bust weeks were horrible, and you were just like left holding the bag when he's like putting up stinker after stinker, and you're like, oh, well, this is lovely. But the guy I really want to talk about here is Patrick Mahomes. Dude, his name is really what's buying this ranking for him. He hasn't been a top 8 quarterback in either the last 2 years. If you took the name out of it, Erickson's already heard my spiel. We talked about make or break players. It's live on YouTube right now, but if you took the name out of the equation, and I told you there was a quarterback in ECR that was ranked 7 in ECR right now, but last year he ranked amongst 40 qualifying quarterbacks. He was 29th in highly accurate throw rate. He was 36th in hero throw rate. He had the 5th lowest deep ball rate. He was bottom 10 in all of the NFL in every deep ball metric that I care about. And over the last 2 years, he's been QB 10 and QB 11 in fantasy points per game. Does that sound like a player that is deserving of QB 7 in ECR? For me, it is definitively not. And at that price point, like there's too many other quarterbacks that I want to draft over Patrick Mahomes. He's QB 11 in my ranks.
Erickson, what do you think about Mahomes? Because I don't know that I would necessarily rank him 7th, but I do think I might be more interested than Debro is just on the potential upside of like it is Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day. What do you think about it?
I understand like the metrics that Debro's laying out, but like it still is Patrick Mahomes. Like this guy we know can lead the NFL in passing yards. The Chiefs had the second highest pass rate over expectation last year. Are we worried about this team running the ball 400 times between Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt? I am not. I think that last year Travis Kelce got old. Their number one receiver got hurt in week 3. They had a rookie. That when you look at when things started to improve for Mahomes, week 8 onward, when they finally gave Xavier Worthy that Rashee Rice role, he averaged 21 points per game. So I'm still in on Patrick Mahomes. I think that he's a value. I'm drafting him over Baker Mayfield because I think that Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback. So that's who I'm going to go with here. And I get that the last 2 years haven't worked out fantasy-wise, but eventually I just think Mahomes is too good of a real-life quarterback where eventually you're going to see the fantasy production follow suit. So that's kind of my take there on Mayfield, or excuse me, on Mahomes. And to the Kyler Murray point, I agree with Debro where, dude, the guy is so frustrating to own and manage in a managed league. To me, it's almost like strictly best ball because, like Debro said, like he's going to accumulate the points, but you don't want to be on the ride. you don't want to be on the roller coaster that is Kyler Murray and his fantasy scoring because
is Kyler Murray even tall enough to ride the ride?
I don't know, and I don't want to find out because he
can't see over the counter.
Last year, he basically never strung together consecutive games where he was actually reliable. So you'd have one good week, and you feel, all right, I got to start him this week, and then he would suck, and then you'd be like, I got to bench this guy, and then you put him back in your. So it was just a emotional nightmare owning Kyler Murray. But at the end of the day, he does find a way to score points. It's just not fun.
Guys, okay, so just imagine riding this roller coaster. You draft Kyler Murray, the start of the fantasy season. Here's his weekly finishes. Just a small snippet. Imagine this roller coaster if you got him in fantasy. QB 15, QB 1, woo! QB 17, QB 25, QB 5, woo! QB 25. Oh, dear Lord. Like, 3 of those 6 weeks, like, you're just like, he's not startable, dude.
If you guys thought it was tough to roster Kyler Murray in a regular league, I rostered him in a guillotine league last year.
Oh,
that was an emotional
how far did you make it, Worm? Like week 2?
I got
3?
to like week 13, actually. I lasted a long time.
Oh, wow.
I was really strong in other spots.
Yeah, you must have been strong everywhere else.
You must have been sweating when Call of Duty came out.
Double XP weekend. Must sit.
It was a nightmare, and then he was the reason I lost.
Of course.
He cost me in whatever. I think it was week 13. It was something like that. He knocked me out.
But yeah, dude, like for the first 6 weeks of the season, this dude was QB 15 or worse. So like, the averages and stuff lie when it comes to Kyler Murray.
I gotta ask you guys because I kind of skipped past this name quickly. I am not drafting Jared Goff in this range. I do not want a quarterback who doesn't run, who has some history of struggling when he's not with an elite play caller, and who just lost the greatest thing since sliced bread in Ben Johnson now. I think he will still be a totally capable fantasy quarterback, but inside the top 10, there's no chance I'm taking him where he's ranked right now. I would much rather not only wait for like a Herbert or a Fields, but for the next group of 6 names that we're about to talk about, I would much rather wait a couple rounds to take them rather than be the guy who says, I believe in Goff even with Ben Johnson gone. Debro, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, he's not the guy in this tier that I'm going to be drafting most of. That's probably going to be Bo Nix and Justin Fields, and then Justin Herbert. It's probably number 3. So I get it. Like, you're looking at the ceiling. Like, last year was probably his ceiling. Like, QB 7. He threw, to Erickson's point, 37 touchdowns. Now, Sam Laporta not being healthy, Jamison Williams finally having a breakout. Does he elevate this year? Adding Isaac Tesla, what does he do? Like, it kind of comes down to where do you think the touchdowns go? Is David Montgomery going to really stay healthy and stuff and gobble up all the touchdowns? So, like, I understand it. I think he's still going to be a top 12 quarterback, but I understand not, like, there's no, like, just allure to grab Jared Goff in your drafts. I think Erickson's points, a lot of them on Baker Mayfield are pretty apt. You can cross-compare to Jared Goff here, but Erickson, am I wrong there?
No, I think that Jared Goff's probably the easiest guy to just fade and kind of cross off your list.
Like, it's not going to burn you if he's QB 8. Like,
that's
so what?
the thing, because passing touchdown efficiency is just really hard to replicate year over year. So when you're basically having a quarterback like Goff where that's the only way he can hurt you and beat you, and you know he's still not even going to be top 5. Again, he threw 37 touchdowns last year and he still wasn't in the top 5. So like that's like you're not missing out on much. And it's like I see Jared Goff and I'm like, I could just draft CJ Stroud.
So that's exactly what my point is going to be. Let's loop in the next group of 6 now, Erickson. Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Drake May, CJ Stroud. That's QBs 13 through 18. I could make the case for any of those guys bumping up ahead of somebody like Jared Goff.
Oh, 100%. This is the tier that I want to live in. I would also include, like, I love Justin Fields, so I didn't talk about him, but I have him ranked way higher than consensus. Like, Justin Fields is the guy I'm circling, and then the next guy is Drake May. Just another quarterback that is a dual threat. He can run, he can throw. So Drake May, like, that's the other guy I just want. I just still love late round quarterback, and that's why I just can't get on board with, yes, I think the elite quarterbacks are great. They score a ton of fantasy points, but it's still a value game for me. Like, that's where I'm still trying to get my edge here playing fantasy football is getting the best value. And taking as many shots on running back and receiver in the beginning rounds where maybe I don't get each of the right guys, but I took enough shots where I ended up getting the guys that end up being top 5 scorers at their positions, at running back and receiver. Quarterback, we know we can replace. Like, you can CJ Stroud was a guy that was being drafted in the top 7 last year quarterbacks. Now he's QB 18. I get why he's fallen so significantly, but it's a reason why you have to proceed with caution when it comes to guys that get the majority of their points with their arm and passing touchdowns, which is what happened with Stroud. And then what happens? Oh, his receivers got hurt, and then it didn't work out, and his offensive line was terrible. So I don't know. Do you want me to wax more poetic on Drake May, or should we wait?
No, I mean,
you gotta wait.
I got numbers. I got more fun numbers.
We will get to the numbers because I want to hear them because I am in agreement with you on this.
Pats fan says what?
I just want to Debra, on this point about the elite quarterbacks. I know you kind of seemingly was leaning more on my end of it in terms of the guys like Allen, Lamar, and Daniels. For me, like those three, like I said at the beginning, are a little bit different. When you're talking about the guys in that like 5 to 11 range, those are the ones where I go, why draft somebody here in round 6 when I could take a swing at a really talented receiver or something like that, when in round 8 or 9 I could get a Drake May, a Dak Prescott, like Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Drake May, CJ Stroud. You could tell me any of those guys finish as like QB6 this year, and I can see the path. I mean, even Dak and Purdy, I think, are really good values there.
Yeah.
And you can loop in Justin Fields, who's one spot ahead of them at QB12 already. Any of those guys you could see taking a huge leap up, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. And Fields is the one guy we didn't talk about a ton, but I want to circle back to real quickly here. In that low-end QB1 kind of bucket, that's the guy that can burn you. Like, out of all of those guys, like we talk about, okay, fine, Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback this year. Whoopity-doo. Like, he's probably not going to be more than QB6, QB7 like last year, so it's not going to burn you if you don't draft him at that cost. Justin Fields could run for 1,000 yards, turn in a top 5 quarterback season, and none of us should be surprised because we know the rushing is there. We've seen it before. Like, Fields, before last year, QB9, QB5. Like, he has a top 5 season on his resume. So, he's the guy in that file and that could burn you if you don't draft. And yes, this is the tier with Brock Purdy and company that I want to live in. Like, I want to be drafting a ton of Brock Purdy. People could say whatever they want to. He's in a contract year, man. Their defense is still not going to be great. All of their skill players are coming back. Like Brandon Ayuk, what do we get out of him? But we know, like, they drafted Jordan Watkins. George Kittle is being healthy. CMC probably back and ready to rock. Erickson and I talked about that. We're in on him having a bounce back season. So the 49ers I know the offensive line is rough, probably a bottom 10 unit in the NFL. That doesn't ever stop this offense. And Brock Purdy is locked in. When he's healthy and the guys are around him, he's locked in top 12 quarterback. So I want to be investing in Brock Purdy. I want to be investing in Dak Prescott with George Pickens. Like, was I lower on Prescott before they added Pickens? Absolutely. But now you look at the constitution of that offense. You got Pickens, you got Lamb, you got Jake Ferguson. The part about that offense, too, is their running backs are horrible. Like, so if they can't run the ball and establish it, they're going to have to throw the ball. So I'm in on Dak Prescott. Like, I've got him right now at QB 13 because with the addition of another weapon, it's going to raise his touchdown ceiling and stuff. And he's been working out. He's fully healthy. So I could see a bounce back for him. And yes, Drake May, rushing potential. CJ Stroud, the bounce back is coming, dude. Like, we could all talk about the offensive line. That wasn't an offensive line when we entered last year that we had concerns about. So as bad as it was last year, they made changes on the offensive line. It cannot be worse than what I think they saw last year. He has a ton of weapons around him, dude. Like, I think we see the CJ Stroud bounce back, and it's going to be glorious this year. But yes, QB 13 through 18, and a few of these guys a little bit lower, that's the range I want to be living in this year, while also mentioning Justin Fields.
I was going to say, you could make it QB 12 to 19.
Yeah,
like
QB 12
Fields
to
on
18.
one end, and then I like
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence a lot. It's kind of the next guy after Stroud. I think that, like, if you tell me that I'm in a super flex draft, and I'm coming away with any 3 of those names in that range, I'm happy. I don't need one of the top 11 guys. I mean, it'd be nice to get him, obviously, but I'm comfortable if those 3 guys are my 3 in a super flex. Like, I love this range. And again, like, we're not going to deep dive in all of them. You can make a very compelling case, though, for Caleb Williams with all these weapons and Ben Johnson, for Jordan Love, for C.J. Stroud having a bounce back and getting back to what he was in year one. But my guy in this range, and they really all are to degrees, is Drake Maye, and I know Erickson agrees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, Drake Maye is the truth, man. I'm thinking about like Drake Maye MVP tickets.
I'm going to rank him irresponsibly this season.
Dude.
It will be dangerous and irresponsible, the amount of investment I have in Drake Maye.
I'm just
MVP tickets?
Dude, if he falls out, who do you think is going to get the credit? Him.
I mean,
based on his offense that he's around, the offensive line is still subpar. Stephon Diggs is number one receiver.
You think
Hunter
he puts up those type of counting stats to like get in that conversation? Like even on the fringe of it?
Yes, he's so good.
We just saw this last year. Voters will ignore the better season to give a quarterback who hasn't won before a little more deference.
So the numbers
I see you, Worm. I see what you're doing there.
I did an episode.
I
did an episode like a month or two ago with Michael Florio on the show. It was me, him, and Sealy, and we had a lot of needling each other about how I was like, we were talking about the value of like playing with an MVP quarterback for some receiver, and I was like, yeah, but what about the value for playing with a first-team All-Pro quarterback in Lamar Jackson? But no, Erickson. I mean, I'm with you. Like the year two leap for a guy this talented, like I see the path for sure.
Yeah. So starting with the rushing upside, so among the 7 quarterbacks last year that hit 30+ rushing yards, so that includes Drake Maye. He hit that rushing threshold. So 5 of those guys finished top 6 in terms of scoring quarterbacks on a per dropback basis. So with the rushing alone, you're already seeing a path where Drake Maye can be a top 6 on a points per game basis based on how many dropbacks he takes. And then you look at what he did during his rookie season. Think about it. Caleb Williams looked like, oh, this guy has this great situation he's going to. He has all these receivers, and he struggled. Meanwhile, Drake Maye also has a terrible offensive line, no wide receivers, gets thrown into the mix, not even as the starter during the offseason, and I think he played extremely well. He threw at least 1 touchdown pass in all 10 games that he played fully as a rookie. So when you look at those games that he played, 18.1 fantasy points per game, that would have ranked QB 15 on the year. So when he was playing in full, he was QB 15 points per game last year. He's QB 17 here in ECR. That was based on everything that was horrible about this team last year when they had Gerard Mayo as a head coach. I think Josh McDaniels is still very underrated as an offensive play caller. I think that he's still a very good offensive coordinator. He's a terrible head coach. No doubt about that. Terrible head coach, Josh McDaniels. But he's thrived as an offensive coordinator when he's not in charge of everything that has to do with the team and just focused strictly on offense. He made Mac Jones look good as a rookie. That was Josh McDaniels. So I think that he can work with a young quarterback, get the most out of Drake Maye, and although that the weaponry I still don't think is perfect, it's still significantly better than it was last season. So for all those reasons, man, like this is why, again, I want Drake. Again, if I'm not getting Justin Fields on my fantasy team, Drake Maye is the guy that I want. And Worm, I'm just saying, like, if you want Drake Maye, like, you can't take Jaden Daniels too. Like, you got to pick one. So
the thing with Drake Maye is that a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you can totally see the ceiling. I'm talking about the floor. This guy, when he was playing, I mean, that's what the rushing does. It's not just a ceiling raiser, it's a floor raiser. This was his weekly finish, and I know you alluded to this, Erickson, but literally just going through every game, his weekly finish in the games outside the ones where he got hurt. 10, 7, 17, 16, 13, 17, 10, 11, 16, and then the last week of the season that he played was 27. It was the one time that he finished, outside of that top 17. That is a very high floor. This isn't a guy who averaged as QB 15, but because he had some spike weeks and some bad weeks. The floor was there in the worst situation. Horrific offensive line, rookie quarterback, no pass catchers. That has improved. It is not the best pass catching group in the league. It is not the best offensive line in the league. It's not the best play caller in the league. Every one of those has improved, like, pretty dramatically just because of how low the starting point was. Not to mention he's another year older and has more experience under his belt. I think the ceiling is immense and also the floor is immense. If you told me that I had to pick one guy outside the top 12 to finish as QB1 this year, first of all, I don't think that's happening. But if you told me I had to pick one to do it, like, Maye would be the bet for me. I just think like the floor and ceiling combination is unbelievable, and I don't think it's getting discussed even enough, even though there is some hype around him. I do wonder, before we move off of Maye, Debro, where do you think Drake Maye is going to be sitting, let's say, like August 20th? where will Drake Maye be ranked in consensus rankings? He's going to move up between now and by the time we get through draft season. Is that ADP going to rise? Or do you think he's going to stay in this range for the most part because there's so many talented quarterbacks ahead of him?
I think he's going to stay in this range. Or to be honest, guys, I think he's going to drop some. And I know that the case y'all are laying out is very, very good. I'm going to poke a few holes in this, but also while saying I think he's going to drop some because here's the thing. All you need is, okay, Tyreek is not going anywhere. People are going to probably go back to Tua just a little bit because the passing volume and the weapons and things like that. Also, people could talk themselves into Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter and Liam Cohen. CJ Stroud is not going to drop any. If anything, he's going to go up a little bit. Same thing with Dak Prescott. Maybe he hops Jordan Love and people are out on him, but I think you're going to see Maye in this kind of like low-end QB2 range, like anywhere from probably like 14 to 20, depending on your draft. So I just don't, with the names above him and the offenses and all that kind of stuff, I don't think that anybody's going to be just rushing and running out there to say, I'm drafting Drake Maye and we're going to push up his ADP and he gets steamed for all of those reasons. Now, the only pushback, I think that Maye will have a very, very good season. The only pushback that I want to interject here a little bit is with the improvements that they have on defense, Mike Vrabel knowing what he's done in the past and what type of offense are we going to see from New England? Is it going to be extremely run heavy? Is their defense, because it is massively, massively improved, is their defense going to put them in more positive game scripts? And does passing volume, passing touchdown upside, or all these things going to ding him enough to where he doesn't get into QB1 territory? Or is the rushing just like that good? That's the only pushback that I have about Maye is the passing touchdown ceiling and the other factors around him with both passing volume and the defense. Can those hurt him just enough to where he's not going to be a QB1 even if he runs a good bit?
One other thing I think helps is just Travion Henderson, like an awesome pass protector, like one of the best pass protecting running backs.
Oh yeah, dude,
in.
Henderson's a dog.
And also
dude.
as a pass catcher, like Drake Maye will get cheap points dropping the ball off to Henderson, who's going to break long runs in those situations. So I like Henderson a lot too. We got to move on to the next group of 6, and really Trevor Lawrence, who's kind of at the top of this next group, I think could have been looped in with those other guys. I'm really excited about Liam Cohen, obviously adding Travis Hunter, year 2 from Brian Thomas Jr. Like. I don't know how many years left I have of giving Trevor Lawrence another chance to be amazing, but I will try again this. I will go down with that ship this year. He is like the quarterback version of Kyle Pitts, where like you cannot convince me that there's not the talent in there to take a step forward into elite territory. I probably am done with Kyle Pitts, but I'm not done yet with Trevor Lawrence. So he is easily my favorite guy in this grouping. We know who Debro's favorite guy is going to be. I'll read all the names in a second. I'm curious who kind of stands out here for Erickson, but the names are Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford, J.J. McCarthy, Bryce Young, and Michael Penix Jr. Let's just, even before we get to Erickson on this section, Debro, we'll clear the floor for you for McCarthy.
JJ's going to be a QB1 this year. He's going to be a top 12 quarterback in fantasy. Dude, for everybody that saw Sammy Darnold, yes, that's Sam Darnold. Go out and put up a QB9 in fantasy points per game season. And you don't think JJ McCarthy can do it. Dude, he's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. I will fight everybody tooth and nail on this. He is going to coffin nail all of the bad takes when he came out as a prospect. Everybody saw him light it up in the preseason. That was just going to be the precipice of what was going to be an awesome season. We're going to see it this year. Surrounded by TJ Hawkinson, fully healthy walking into the season. They still have Jalen Naylor. They added Ty Felton. We'll see if Jordan Addison gets suspended, what happens with that. But we know Justin Jefferson is that dude. And they added offensive line help. Like, this offensive line is shored up. It is solid in front of JJ. He's a top 12 quarterback, man. Like, and I have him ranked as a top 12 quarterback in my rankings right now. JJ McCarthy, QB 10 in my rankings. Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm going to be drafting him everywhere.
What round are you going to be taking him to make sure? Because you don't have to take him as a top 10 quarterback, but just to ensure you get your guy.
He is, I want to say in this last mock that we did earlier this week, I took him in round 9. I could be wrong with that, but I'm looking to see where he's at in the overall. JJ McCarthy, where are you at? Okay, so he's in the 140s in ECR right now. I mean, dude, once we get like into the double digits, it's all free game, man. Like, I mean, I think you can start making the case, and I'll probably draft J.J. McCarthy in like the 9th, 10th round. That's where I'm at.
Erickson,
I don't think you're gonna have to wait, or I don't think you have to reach on him in those rounds.
No, you won't. You won't.
No,
because people aren't gonna believe.
You can, because you're going to anyway. I know you will.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
because you already got RJ Harvey in round 2, so you got to make sure you. So you got to. Hey, man,
it's a little bit spicy, but Erickson's not.
You get your
totally
guys.
wrong.
So do you want my opinion on McCarthy? Worm, was that where you were going? I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no. We know how Debro felt. Anybody who's ever watched him talk about J.J. McCarthy. So I am curious, as we sit here, like obviously you had thoughts on him going into last year, and then of course the injuries. So as we sit here entering year 2, seeing what Sam Darnold just did, like Debro was talking about, how are you ranking McCarthy right now?
Yeah, so I'm more in line with where consensus is. So I have more of a grounded take with J.J. McCarthy. I'm just trying to acknowledge the fact that he's coming off a major injury and he missed his entire rookie season. So that matters to me. How much do they put on his plate right away? This wasn't a high-volume passer at the college level. Very highly efficient, right, Debro? Efficient passer at the college level, but not a high
efficiency. Some
not
would say
a high-volume passer. So to me, it seems a bit of a stretch to assume. Oh yeah, again, the Vikings offense has been traditionally very pass-heavy, like very pass-heavy under their coaching staff. But to me, the offseason moves they've made this year with a young quarterback suggest I think they want to play a little bit more bully ball. Again, they bolster the interior offensive line. They have 2 running backs that you can feel confident running the football with Aaron Jones, with Jordan Mason, 2 guys that can run between the tackles, Aaron Jones out of the backfield. So I think that maybe it takes a little bit more time for J.J. McCarthy to get fully unlocked as, okay, we're now ready to dial up because he just missed so much time. So I just don't want to put so much pressure on him. And week 1, hey, you need to be the guy, drop back 40 times a game and rip it to all the receivers. So that's where I'm a little bit more hesitant. I do see the path where, again, can he be better than Sam Darnold? Most likely. If he's fully healthy and ready to go, yeah, I think by the end of the season we're going to see him firing on all cylinders, but maybe it takes a little bit longer. And for those reasons, I think Drake Maye is going to outscore J.J. McCarthy.
So we got a bet there.
I'll take it. I know which side Worm's on. So.
No, I'm here for that bet. That's a really good bet.
And I think I would rank McCarthy.
I think it's a good bet
between where Debro and Erickson have him. I am more excited, I think, than Erickson. Obviously, a little less excited than Debro.
Yeah, well.
But I would have to take Maye on this side.
Well, I mean, how much do you expect J.J. McCarthy to run? Like, that's the other thing. He's coming off a major injury. Like, do you think he's going to run a lot?
I mean, if he's fully healthy, dude.
Yeah, I think he's young enough. They're not going to be like, oh, we can't risk running him anymore.
But are they going to be calling design? Like, they're going to do design runs with Drake Maye. Like, are they going to do design runs with J.J. McCarthy?
I don't think they're going to have a ton of design runs, but he's going to have some rushing. I think like 250, 300 yards.
Yeah, it's not moving the needle for me. Not for rushing. I mean, Drake May's got him beat.
You just talked about Patrick Mahomes like having the rushing and stuff like that. I'm literally.
We didn't talk about Mahomes as rushing. I did not mention anything about Mahomes as rushing. We talked about Baker Mayfield. His rushing.
Okay.
We'll circle.
Yeah, excuse me, Baker.
We'll come
Baker
up
at the
with a bet.
same.
So I'm also fading Baker Mayfield.
We'll come up with a bet. I want people to put it in the comments if they have ideas of what Debro and Erickson can bet on Drake Maye versus J.J. McCarthy, because I do think that's a good one. And
that's
I
a good bet.
I want to get in on the bet and take the Maye side. We'll have the commenters come up with some ideas.
J.J. McCarthy versus the world. I'm here for it.
I do want to ask you, though, Erickson, so if it's not McCarthy, who's the guy in this range that you're interested in? And the answer could be nobody, but is it Bryce Young, seeing what he did in the second half of last year? I mean, again, I do kind of think Trevor Lawrence maybe stands apart, so you can talk about him if you want, but maybe excluding him if he's the obvious guy for you. Maybe you don't see it that way. I mean, Matthew Stafford having 2 elite receivers again, Michael Penix Jr., there's a lot of talent in that receiving room, and now he gets kind of his second year. Who stands out to you in this group?
To be honest, I don't really like this tier at all. Like, I want to have my quarterback kind of wrapped up, so I don't mean to rain on the parade here from this tier, but I really don't like. And Trevor Lawrence, to me, it seems like a lot of hope with him. It's like, oh, it's finally going to all come together, but I still can't get out of my mind that Brian Thomas Jr. broke out last year with Mac Jones as his quarterback. And I know we're all seeing, like, even to me, like, oh, he's got a better quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, but it's like how long are we going to continue to wait for Trevor Lawrence to continue to cycle through offensive coordinators and head coaches, and eventually he's not at fault. It's never his fault. It's like, okay, well, eventually he has to wear some of the blame. And again, not an elite rusher by any means. Like, okay, as a passer, never really hit. I don't know what's his ceiling. Is he going to be a top 5 guy? Like, I don't really think so. So for me, it's like I'll just take like the steady Matthew Stafford with Devontae and Puka Nacua, and this guy could throw 40 touchdowns. Like that, I guess that's it for me. Like, I'm not trying to overthink it with, oh, what if Tua stays healthy? Like Bryce Young, I think is kind of fun in this area because we saw him at the end of last year like have very good fantasy point numbers, and I like Tetrell McMillan a lot. So Bryce Young may be the other guy that's fun, but I want to have my quarterback situation way before I get to this tier. And if anything, from a superflex standpoint, it would probably be Stafford because I feel this guy has a 40 touchdown ceiling. I'm not worried about he's going to get benched. He's going to suck. He's going to play all the games. Like, I have the most confidence in him playing all the games versus J.J. McCarthy coming off injury. Michael Penix has a long injury track record. I get Stafford's on the older side of things, but the Rams' offensive line holds up. I mean, he's going to be flirting with a lot of passing touchdowns. So even though he doesn't have anything as a rusher, I think I'm willing to take some security and safety with Stafford.
By the way, I was just pulling up Trevor Lawrence because I wanted to look at his game log. I didn't realize that we had this on our player pages on Fantasy Pros. There's a little link you can just click. It's like Trevor Lawrence fantasy team names. So I think we have this probably on a lot of the main players. You can go see that. I didn't realize that was just right there on their player cards. I knew we had that tool, but that's pretty cool if anybody's looking for some creative new names.
You couldn't find any fun stats about Trevor Lawrence while you were in there?
No, I was distracted.
There was nothing in there, just team names.
No,
just
I was
team
distracted
names.
by the
I thought
team
you were
names.
going to drop like a stat. You're like, you're wrong, Erickson. Trevor Lawrence is the truth.
What I was going to say is that top 5, maybe no. I do think the ceiling could be like a back-end top 10 quarterback. And I am willing to give more leeway to the situation he's been in. The Jags were a dumpster fire when he got there. I mean,
since he's gotten there.
Are they that much better this year?
I mean, yeah, they're better.
But what I was going to say is that's what he stepped into, and then he had Urban Meyer as his coach in year 1. Like, I don't think Doug Peterson has done anything since the Eagles Super Bowl run. Like, I'm willing to give leeway to the situation he's been. I don't think the talent is just gone. And it's not like this guy is in his early 30s and we've been waiting for a decade for this to happen. He's 25 years old. He's in year, he was drafted in 21, so year 5 that he's going into. I realize that oftentimes it happens sooner for the elite quarterbacks, and I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback, but this is going to be the best pass-catching duo he's had by a mile, assuming they're telling the truth about Travis Hunter playing a lot on offense. This is like an awesome duo that they're about to have. He's theoretically healthy. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 full games of last season before getting hurt. I mean, that's who knows how sustainable that is, but there's some degree of interest in running there. Like, I think he is, but clearly, set aside Debro's love for McCarthy because that's its own conversation. I think he clearly has the highest ceiling of anybody in this tier.
I do want to interject just one thing with Lawrence and trying to not get caught in a potential trap with. So, like, getting Travis Hunter, right? Like, great upgrade. But let's talk, like, look at the guy quarterbacks in these tiers. Stafford, 2 great receivers. Tua, 2 great receivers. McCarthy, 2 great receivers and a tight end. Bryce Young, okay, Tetrell McMillan, probably he has the worst receiving core. But Michael Penix, 2 great receivers. Or Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney. So, yes, I get that you should be excited because you got Travis Hunter, but up and down the list, like, everyone technically has tried to improve their receiver room this year. So that's where I'm just trying to stay level-headed with Trevor Lawrence and be like, okay, still at the end of the day, like, what have you actually done at the NFL level as in terms of a fantasy score?
But it's less about me thinking that duo is going to elevate him and more just about the fact that now his pass catching room isn't going to drag him down in the way it could have in some of these previous years for him.
I mean, he's had some guys.
Health has also been an issue too,
but not at this level. Health has been an issue, but like
health has been a big issue for him.
If you're looking at this tier, McCarthy misses the full season his first year. Tua's health injuries we don't need to talk about. Matthew Stafford is very old. That. You know, Penix has a long history of injury stuff in college. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying you should draft him over like Justin Herbert or somebody who's way ahead of him. But I think in this tier, if you're looking for upside, again, unless you really love McCarthy the way Debro does, I think Lawrence's upside is, I mean, he's been better than Bryce Young, obviously, even though Bryce Young had a very good second half last year. You know, Penix hasn't really done anything. Stafford is old and doesn't run, and that worries me. Tua, every hit could be his last, as sad as it is. And then McCarthy, we haven't seen play at the NFL level yet. So, like, to me, it's not saying that Trevor Lawrence is definitely going to be a league winner, but if I'm waiting this long at quarterback for probably a QB2 at this point, I'm more interested in that upside than I am in the floor of a guy like Stafford. And I do like Stafford this year.
I was going to say, I want to push back a little bit. Like, I think if it's not J.J. McCarthy as the highest ceiling in this tier, I think it's Matthew Stafford, dude. Like, I with the weapons.
I just can't get there with the lack of running.
Dude, but here's the thing. When he was healthy last year with Puka Nacua back on the field, so weeks 8 through 14 before he tailed off at the very tail end of it, he was a top 12 quarterback. He was QB 11 in fantasy points per game. He was top 12 in every single metric we care about. And now you're telling me, okay, Tyler Higbee fully healthy. They add Terrence Ferguson to that passing attack. And Devontae freaking Adams. Dude, we get a full season of Puka and Adams with Stafford, with this offensive line, with this team. Dude, like, and to Erickson's point, you want to talk about regression? For a player that, like, okay, first year in Los Angeles, 6.8 passing touchdown percentage. The 3 years after that, 3.3, 4.6, 3.9. Those passing touchdowns numbers are going up this year, man. Like, I'm not telling you that, like, he throws for 41 like he did in 2021, but I think we easily could be living in a world where Matthew Stafford throws for 35 passing touchdowns. Can he not?
I like Stafford this year, to be clear. I'll put it like this. I think if you tell me both of them hit their absolute apex ceiling this season, strictly in talking about fantasy value, then I think Lawrence's is higher. But I think Stafford has a better chance of hitting his ceiling this year than Lawrence does.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
My problem is just having enough weapons around Lawrence to where he can access that many passing touchdowns. Yeah. Like, Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. are freaking awesome. But even if both of those dudes catch like 10 to 12 touchdowns, like, you're still talking about the rest of it's Parker Washington.
No, it's a fair
Brown,
point.
Well, it's funny, too, because also they may be putting Trevor Lawrence as one of his best receivers. He's playing defense half the time.
It's a fair point. There are reasons he is ranked down here, for sure.
And because he's not produced. Like,
yes.
To be frank, like, he hasn't, again, I get he hasn't been in the best situations, but ultimately he hasn't also shown the ability to overcome bad situations. I mean, look, remember C.J. Stroud last year as a rookie? Again, thrown into the Wolves, and he balled out. Like, Trevor Lawrence hasn't done that, so.
I just don't think development's linear. He's only 25.
Then you must love the next guy in our next tier then about development and linear progression and young quarterbacks.
Well, a few guys in this next group. Just to kind of round up, we don't need to go deep on these because we've gone pretty long, but just the final group inside the top 32. Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, Sam Darnold, Cam Ward, Russell Wilson, Jaxson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, Aaron Rodgers. Especially those first four names. Talk about nonlinear development. We don't need to go deep on all these guys. Obviously, D-Bro, we know your love for Jaxson Dart, given what we heard from you throughout the draft season. We know kind of everybody's feelings on Shedeur Sanders falling. Aaron Rodgers, I think we're assuming will be the Steelers quarterback. Who the heck knows? Those early names in this grouping, though.
Who cares?
I don't care. That's a much better way to play it. The interesting names here for me are really those first two. Geno Smith in a new place. Anthony Richardson. This dude is being drafted as like a top 6 quarterback a year ago, given the upside. Sam Darnold, who just was this awesome quarterback, but is now in a new situation that I is obviously a downgrade. And then Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick, who's going to be started right off the bat in Tennessee. So, like, kind of those 4 names and ignoring the other 4, who stands out to you, Erickson?
I mean, it's Anthony Richardson. I think it's pretty obvious because you talked about where he was being drafted last year, how high he was being ranked. Because a lot of this ranking is not about his ability as a fantasy scorer. It's about, how many games is he going to play? Because the minute that we get news that, okay, well, he's going to start week 1, then he's not. Is he going to be QB 26 in your week 1 rankings, D-Bro? If he's the starter for week 1? QB 26?
No, he'll be top 12, top 15.
Exactly. So I think in a redraft format, Anthony Richardson is a no-brainer. Take him with your last pick. Again, we'll know more information as we get closer to the actual season. But, I mean, again, the upside case, and now there's no risk involved because he's free. And I still think that he's a great best ball target because, maybe Daniel Jones is the starter. He hasn't been the most healthy quarterback. He runs around sometimes. He also isn't the most consistent quarterback either. So they could go to Daniel Jones and then go back to Richardson. But when Richardson plays, similar to like a Kyler Murray, like when he decides to run, he scores fantasy points. So for me, I think that Richardson, again, I would take Richardson over some of the guys in the tier above us. Like I would take Richardson. Like I don't think Michael Penix is going to move the needle for me. I don't think Geno Smith is going to move the needle for me in fantasy. Again, aside from a super flex where in super flex, I don't like Richardson as much, and that may sound counterintuitive because I just talked about the upside, but with my second quarterback, I just want like starts. I want to log a guy I can trust every single week to plug and play. So like Geno Smith stands out to me as like, or even like a Cam Ward where I know they're going to start all the games. And if they put up okay production, like that's fine. But as long as I have a stable producer in my QB2 slot, I feel good about that. But in a one quarterback league, I'll take the boomer bust Richardson. If he doesn't work out, he gets benched. I just cut him and move on.
D-Bro?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree about anything Erickson laid out about Anthony Richardson. The two guys in this tier that stand out to me are Geno Smith and Jaxson Dart. With Geno, I honestly think we're underrating how good the Raiders' offense could be. Man, like Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers is a really, really good start. Jack Besh is going to be starting 3 wide immediately, and he tore up the entire NFL draft process. I think he is also going to be a great value for fantasy and redraft. And, dude, Deontay Thornton, like, they have a legit field stretcher. Like, dude is just an athletic marvel. Like, if you were to compare the Raiders and Seattle Seahawks offensive line, it's not crazy to say the Raiders are a better offensive line. This is going to be a better offense that Geno is stepping into. So, Geno Smith, I'm going to be drafting him in a lot of Superflex leagues as my QB2 for the certainty that I know he's going to have the job all year. He has shown the ability to put up spike weeks. He has played better than I think people realize. It's just that offensive line just crushed everything they tried to do in Seattle over the last few years. And with Jaxson Dart, I don't think we see Russell Wilson start for a long time this year. I just think he's cooked. Like, at this point, we know what we're getting out of Russell Wilson, and that's not a lot, man. It's check down, moon ball, can't run anymore. Okay, he does Russell Wilson-type things. Brian Daboll is going to lose his damn mind, and Jaxson Dart is going to be starting. If not, I think there's also a case Jaxson Dart maybe wins the job out of camp. I don't think it's, like, the most likely of outcomes, but I do think he is going to make starts this season. And whether we want to talk about the weapons around him, we want to talk about Daniel Jones, what he did in that offense, and Jaxson Dart being a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, and the rushing upside for Jaxson Dart, again, another player where it's like, I'm not drafting him as my QB2, but in Superflex formats, I'm going to be drafting Jaxson Dart as my QB3 and so many different places, because we could be flip over the cards and it's week 5 and Jaxson Dart is my QB2 every single week in my life.
D-Bro, who do you think starts more games this year, Jaxson Dart or Tyler Shuck?
Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, that's the right
Tyler
answer.
Shuck, by the way,
Tyler
was
Shuck.
QB 33 in ECR.
Dude, I've got him. You guys got to move him up. I got him 31.
No. Can't force me, can't make me. Not going to do it.
We'll wrap up there on D-Bro's misery. Be sure to check out. We're going to do kind of the same thing for the tight ends. That'll be a much shorter episode. We're just going to kind of go through a little quicker on those.
Don't spoil it for him. Don't spoil it for him.
I'm just telling them that you don't have to commit.
They want an
yourself to
hour of
another
tight end
plus.
conversation.
I think the views say that they don't, but we'll give them a fun, shorter tight end conversation. And if you have more tight end questions or more quarterback questions from this episode, you can hit us up on Discord and social media and other places to get more discussion there. Before Erickson and D-Bro, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to stick around for the tight end episode later this week.
Draft Drake, man.
You had to sneak in Tyler Shuck.
Jog it.